of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Senator, what are your thoughts on this? Obviously, there have been attacks against this president now for a decade going.
And Maria, the American people really want to get to the bottom of this. If people did things wrong, they want them to be held to account. And what we see with James Comey is he has tried to say, well, this is what I said. He doesn't want to talk about what he knew or what he did, but it appears that there is a cover-up that several of them were involved in. And what we want to see is a justice for President Donald Trump and those held to account for what they have done to him.
Well, I mean, you lived it as well. You watched how they came up with all of these fantastic, fantasies about Trump colluding with Russia, and then leaked it to the press so that the press would take it and it would go viral, which is exactly what happened. Half the country may still have questions about whether or not there was collusion. So is the issue here just perjury, or is there other criminality?
That is something we will know when we hear what the grand jury has to say. But Maria, bear in mind, the American people watched this play out. They heard what President Trump had to say. They saw how DOJ was weaponized, how it was used against him, how other federal agencies were brought to bear against him, his family, people that supported him, people that were involved in the campaign, the amount of surveillance that was done, and what the American people have realized. Things that President Trump said were happening to him were actually taking place. Now, those that did this need to be held responsible, and it is important that this go to the grand jury and that they send something back. I hope they send it back today. And I think it would be appropriate to see an indictment, but we will see what the grand jury has to say today.
All right, we will wait for that. Let me move on to this potential government shutdown. Senator, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is demanding what he's calling an ironclad health care agreement. Tensions, of course, escalating ahead of this Tuesday deadline when we could see a potential shutdown, midnight, Tuesday, September 30th. The White House Budget Office sent a memo to federal agencies Wednesday night telling them to prepare layoff plans in an event of a shutdown. So what are you expecting?
My hope is the Democrats come to the table. This is a clean CR. Now, Maria, what they are trying to do is to take those enhanced Obamacare subsidies that were put in place in 2020, were set to expire in 22. The Inflation Reduction Act extended them to 2025, and now the Democrats want to make this permanent. So they're wanting to continue enhanced subsidies. So, no, this is a cost of $350 billion. The document that we're talking about passing, the continuing resolution, is a 6-week document so that we can finish the appropriations process and get ourselves off of a Biden budget and onto a Trump budget that a Republican House and Senate have passed Republican-led appropriations bills. This is what the American people voted for. They did not vote for continuing Biden policies. They want to see Trump policies. They want us on that budget. And hopefully we will get them to realize it's a clean CR. They need to do their job.
Hold on, Senator, because we've got breaking news on the economy, because all of this is connected. Let's get to Cheryl with the breaking data right now, hitting the tape.
Well, listen to second quarter GDP, Maria, a gain of 3.8%. This is much higher than the second read of the second quarter for GDP of 3.3%. It's now 3.8%, and this is the final read for the second quarter. A strong economy, consumer spending, strong. Yes, imports decreased, and that certainly affected the number, but again, a much better than expected. And this is a bit of a surprise for the markets. Claims better than expected for jobless, 218,000. We were looking for 235. Continuing jobless claims, 1.926 million. This is a good story for the employment picture. Durable goods, get this, month over month up 2.9%. That expectation was for a loss of 0.5%. That's very strong. Strip out transports, you got a gain of 0.4%, Maria. But that GDP number, it's very rare to see that, but it was a good number.
Actual number, 3.8%, much better than the 3.3% estimate, and you've got markets trading lower. Mark Tepper, is this a reaction to strong backdrop and a suggestion that maybe the Fed is not going to be aggressive? Is that why stocks are trading lower right now?
I would have to assume that that's the reason. We're at a point where, investors may be looking at good news as actually being bad news for the market. I don't think that's the case. Yes, jobless claims were low, but we're not adding enough jobs to keep up with population growth. The rates still have to come down so that capital is more affordable. Businesses can then hire, they can execute on their growth plans, and consumers can do what they need to do as well.
And we just heard from Kevin Hassett, who was very positive about the macro story longer term. I'm with Senator Marsha Blackburn. And, Senator, I'm wondering if you have a government shutdown, does that cut into the very strong backdrop that we're seeing as a result of President Trump's policies?
And President Trump has been right on what his policies would do. So has Secretary Bessent. If the Democrats want to shut down government, if Chuck Schumer wants to shut it down, then they're the obstacle here. But, Maria, they are so anti-Republican control of the House, the Senate, and President Trump's plans. Who knows what they are going to do? But I would remind my Democrat colleagues, the American people overwhelmingly voted for what President Trump was bringing to the table. What you are seeing in the numbers bear out that his plan is working. It is right. We also know that the Fed did a little cut. They have mentioned that there would be more cuts to come. It is important to get this economy back on track. It is important that we deal with the tariffs and the trade. You see this GDP number that is stronger than expected. I think it indicates things are working as we had anticipated and planned for them to work.
All right, we will leave it there. Again, the GDP coming in better than expected, of growth of 3.8%. versus an expectation and the last reading of 3.3%. Durable goods up 2.9%, and it was expected to be lower. Senator, good to see you. Thank you so much. Marsha Blackburn joining us this morning.